Shalom, family. Shalom, family. I know this is like one of those things that I'm springing on you first thing in the morning, but I watched a few videos and boy, did I get my feathers ruffled this morning watching a swirler. And instead of doing a video share, I decided to do this in a live stream this morning. So let's get all of our greetings out the way. So, Abby, thank you for coming. Michelle, Jazz, Shanrika, Taria, which is a beautiful name, Taria, Alicia, Darren, Leonard, M, Lord Maul, Yamaimaya, Tashaka, Angeline, good morning. Water Sniper, Sunny, Whirlwind, Helen. Alicia, I believe I said you, but if I didn't, good morning. 12 Keys to Freedom. Let's see. Audrey, Nana, Crystal Clear, Sayanlo. Let's see, I don't want to leave anybody out. Nazinga, Rome, Soupmone, C. Detroit's in the house. Huey, Tashi, the Black Lady of Chaos and Havoc, the Queen, a True Royal Family, Teflon, let's see, Jamal, Lovely Queen, Mr. Punch Out, I am SARRJ, Teflon, Jordan, Yoruba, Gary, welcome. Diallo, Tasha and Von J, Aborigine, Lewis, all welcome. Welcome, everybody. Woo! What we're going to talk about today are the swirlers with a white supremacist mindset. Yummy, welcome. And S. Wiseman, welcome. We're going to talk about the swirlers with a white supremacist mindset. I think that we need to handle these type of swirlers just like we handle the businesses that come along and do racist things or say racist things to the Black community and then turn around and apologize. We need a strategy against these people that are hell-bent on being against the community or going public in the mainstream media just to fight with other Black people. You know, we should no longer, we should not be tolerating this at all. We should have reached our limit with coons by now. All right. And just deal with them so that they know they are not welcome back. And we must let the toxic people among us go. We have not done it. And we might have done it on an individual scale, but we certainly have not done it on a big enough scale where it makes an impact on them. And that's what we must strive to do. And this is a must, y'all. This is a must. The sellouts must be dealt with. We cannot go on like this, period. Okay? We just can't. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. Just had to close my door. All right. No, we need a real strategy. And what I suggest that we do, the ones that go on mainstream media, we turn it off. We turn it off. And not whenever they go on to speak, don't let them have the ratings at all. Don't let them have the ratings, because if they see their ratings will drop every time they have the coon on, trust me, they will stop being invited. The problem is when the coons show up on the big mainstream media news, too many people are tuning in. That's why they keep having them back over and over. We must send out a statement that we are not going to tolerate this anymore. Whenever they show up, we're not going to listen. We're not going to listen. And we must stop letting them have the final say. That's another thing. And that's where the social media tool can be used against a sellout. And yes, we must, especially if you are a video creator, it is time for us to lift up our voices and let these people know we don't like what you're doing. And if you don't stop doing it, we will shut you down. So now, what do? We start identifying these people openly. We start identifying them. And then once we identify them, we come out against them. And then after we say our piece, from that point on, we ignore them. They are no longer what we will see as even someone worthy of our attention. That's what you do. But it is crucial that we denounce them with our voices. And then once they are denounced, then we cut them off and keep it moving. So from this point on, whatever happens to the sellout, they'll just have to deal with that themselves without our support, period. Without it. There has to be a breaking point with these people. It absolutely has to be a breaking point, y'all. If we don't start doing something now, I think this is the perfect time, because we see America in free fall right now. This is the time we got to throw these sellouts completely out of the community and get rid of them. You know, the problem with swirlers is swirlers cause too much confusion. Okay. And we got to also look at the impact they're having on the young. This is not just about the adults. It's about the damage and the confusion they are causing in our community with the young. Now, you have the swirler that sometimes have a more white supremacist mind than the actual white supremacists. Now, when you have our young Black children looking at that, that's confusing for them to see this sellout speaking and going out so hard against their own people. But this is what's happening. Then you also have the swirler that talks pro-Black and he's for the Black community, but they're with white. He or she is with white. That's also confusing. How do you talk being for your people, but you are going to bed at night with a Bob or Becky? It's causing confusion. We have to get rid of that confusion. You know, it tells you That is a man or woman with a life that's in deep turmoil, such a deep turmoil that they hated themselves or people just like them, to the point where they went into a relationship with someone that has a history of murder, rape, subjugation, institutionalized racism, and everything that got us in the state that we're in. That's a problem. You know, so even the coon that's speaking up for the community, but turns around and only dates Becky or Bob or Brad, like S. Wiseman is saying, that's a problem. Again, we can't allow this confusion to filter down to our children. So something has to give, y'all. You know, personally, I've been ready to take a stand against the coons, but we either have to do this or we're going to still move ahead being bulldozed by the coons. And right now, and we know the state of America in the climate, it's always been a racist place. But the mainstream media in this country only put the coons on the air. All right. Anyone that don't have that white supremacist mindset and you are Black, they got a problem with you. So just because the mainstream media keeps propping these people, it doesn't mean we have to accept it, and we shouldn't accept it, period. When do we draw the line and stop the mainstream media from having any say in who we choose and who we don't choose? That's our decision. We don't let them have that power. We take that power away from them and take it back. And right now, they are possessing that power because we're not fighting enough. Okay, we're not fighting enough against these people. So until we do, hi Mega, old school, until we do, we're going to keep dealing with this situation. So I'm going to show you 2 videos and an article. And this is all going to be pointing towards Pastor Mark Burns and his recent comments in the media over the last 2 days. Good morning, peeps. Good morning, S. Mac. And he's been making some very harsh comments, and you can tell this man is married to a Becky because he got the art of deflecting down to a science. Whenever he can't deal with talking about Haiti and sending the Haitians back and everything Trump has said about, calling their nations, the Africans and the Haitian nations, Africa's a continent, a shithole, he goes to the African American argument. So you can tell he's married to a Becky because he got the art of deflection down to a science. Okay, he knows how to deflect better than your average Caucasoid do. So let's go ahead and look at this first video. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Do that right now. And then we'll just kind of talk in between the videos. Okay, get this. Let me put it on full screen here. Let me see if I can get this on full screen. All right, there we go.
It's silent because it's all about the numbers. It's a numbers game right now in 2018. This does not help the party, but they're going to try to lessen the blow by, slapping the hand. Well, at least Ryan, not McConnell, but slapping the hand, but not too hard.
Right, McConnell's not even doing that.
An issue is right. But I said, as I said,
Yeah.
Ryan. But an issue we've heard from. There are some Republicans who are stepping out. Senator Langford and Tim Scott writing statements, doing op-eds. And these two, and they're a very interesting pair. They have these Sunday conversations trying to heal issues of the racial divide with mixed communities coming together in someone's home. The big question for these Sunday conversations for this pair, the senatorial pair, is would you have someone from another race in your home? And what they do is they practice this Sunday conversations issue. And I mean, they have been coming out. But the leadership, and Tim Scott is a leader. He was one of the core four when it came to tax reform. But you need the leadership to say something. If Donald Trump, no matter if he's, as the NAACP says, he's racist or what have you, he is the president of all America. And he says he's the president of all America, not his base, not Trump land, not white America, not rural America, not just the forgotten men, but all America, who includes Black, Brown, Jew, Gentile, Protestant, and Catholic. So the question now is, what will be done to leverage, the NAACP president just said, what will be done to leverage to make sure that all the leaders, not just the president, but those on Capitol Hill, make sure they understand that the Black and Brown community are to be looked at and to be helped, because the Black and Brown community still have the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category in this nation.
And Pastor Burns, it is clear, not only is there no apology coming, but the president, as is his usual way, is trying to muddy the water and fight back.
Well, first of all, I think we should, understand who all was in the room. The president has already said he did not say it. And let me just be clear. I don't use the language, nor would I, would be pushing anyone or supporting anyone that would speak derogatory of a country. And I like to know which Africa country he actually called it an asshole, supposedly called an asshole. But the thing is, we weren't in the room. We're only using information based off of people that were in the room. There were other
people
two
in
Republicans,
the room, Democrat, Republican in the room.
And there were two Republicans that were in the room.
White House hasn't denied it.
Right. And there were two other Republicans that was in the room that clearly stated that they don't recall at all the president saying that.
So that's, you have to admit, that's pretty pathetic. You either recall or you don't recall that happened.
Well,
I'm sorry, that's just
BS. They're denying that the president said it. Let me just say that they clearly are denying that the president said that.
No, they're not. Then they should come out and deny it. The only explanation for them not denying it is that they would be liars, and they're not willing to go that far, Pastor.
Well, the clear is that they clearly stated that I'm sure if the president would have said asshole, but the fact of the matter is we're focusing on the fact that he allegedly said asshole about some countries, and in my mind's view,
Aaron, can I ask
he's
something?
talking about. Let me finish, April. In my mind's view, he's talking about if he said asshole, which I can't say he did or didn't, but others in the room, and I have it on high authority that he did not. But if he said asshole, he's talking about countries that is clearly.
The White House is even denying it. The president himself isn't even denying it. He's trying to say it was about it.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point, because I can't get to the next point. Let me finish my point. If he said asshole, then he was talking about countries that are clearly, those governments that are not taking care of their own people. There are people who are suffering in Haiti. There are people, there are governments that are corrupt in those areas, and yet they want to come over here. And no, we want a policy that's going to allow immigrants to come here to actually offer something that's beneficial to America.
April, please respond.
Aaron, okay, first of all, I have two questions. One, as a pastor, the least of these, for that to even be in the air, as a pastor, you find offense that. And two, when you talk about, yes, Haiti is the poorest Western nation, Western hemisphere nation, but at the same time, what about some of these African countries? All of the continent of Africa is not devastated. Now let's look at sub-Saharan Africa. Let's look at South Africa. You can't just say all of the countries on the continent of Africa are derelict or don't have any kind of democracy. So your statement is wrong there.
No.
So,
I didn't say all of Africa. I said which countries. I said which countries he called that. Now I know Nigeria. Nigeria is one of my favorite countries. They're not desolate. There are some desolate people there, but they're not desolate. And now, as a pastor, let me ask you a question. The Bible says says, because you talking my lane now, the Bible clearly says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse
And
number 8.
I've grown up in church, so let's be clear.
Then praise God.
Yeah,
Praise God. The Bible says in 1 Timothy, and I'm happy you grew up in church. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse number 8, that a man that does not take care of his own home, their own people, is worse than an infidel. We have somehow forgotten that in America that we are becoming the country of the whole entire world. But there are people here in America. There are black people in America that are suffering.
I can't hear when everybody's talking at the same time,
America.
Pastor, please, Kirsten.
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say, but I think you're talking about the governments. That what you just were quoting was about the government. We're talking about the people that are coming over. So for what you're basically saying is that if you come from an S-hole country, that you're an S-hole person.
No.
That's not correct. Even if this country is filled with people who came from terrible countries with terrible governments,
right,
and they fled here and they came here. Those are the exact kind of people I would think a pastor would be saying we would want them to come to the country, and they've been major contributors to this country.
As a pastor, as the shepherd, yes, feed the homeless, yes, feed the poor, yes, help them raise themselves up. But the thing is, it is not the responsibility of the United States of America to be the country of the whole entire world. It is our job to empower those leaders to raise their own people up. Now, what you're saying that President Trump has clearly stated, let me finish though. President Trump has clearly ran on a Make America Great Again principles. Make America. There are black people in America that are suffering. There are minorities in America that has a low interest rate home. So we're talking about, we should be focusing on the unemployment rate in African American communities that is at an all-time high in the history of the unemployment.
Your interaction with the president today, because I think it's important in light of what Derek Johnson just said, saying it's very clear he's a racist. You asked him these questions after the MLK speech. Here is your exchange. Well, here's the question.
Mr. President, will you give an apology for the statement yesterday?
Mr. President, did you refer to African nations? Did you refer to shit all over?
Mr. President, are you a racist? Mr. President, will you respond to these serious questions about the statement?
And he did not respond. And April, I want to make a point. He loves to respond. Today, no.
Yes, he does. Yeah. The silence was deafening. He had a chance to say something, to come out and smack me down saying, how dare you, or something. He chose not to. His silence was deafening. And once again, it's in the air. And maybe like Gloria Borgia had been reporting that he likes this. But what does it do for the African nations? What does it do for descendants of Africa who are here? What does it do for diplomacy? What does it do? And I'm going to go back to Pastor Burns really quick. You know, the Bible also says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Yes. It doesn't quantify or qualify my next door neighbor or in Africa or it doesn't quantify love thy neighbor as thyself. So he is the moral leader. He is the moral, he sets the tone. And if a president of the United States just disregards that serious question, and it was very hard for me to ask that question of a U.S. president today when he was doing this proclamation, but I had to ask, and I stand by it. But you have to remember, he sets the tone. Yes. And I hear what you're saying about taking care of home, but it's also love thy neighbor as thyself.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the ongoing support of countries like Haiti from America is a clear indication that the United States government and President Trump desires to help our neighbor, that we are helping our neighbor.
I don't know how sending them back.
Let me finish. We're talking about empowering. You're trying to give people fish. President Trump is trying to teach you how to fish. It is not the responsibility of the American government. I would understand you. I will understand you if we would leave those people in the desert to die. No, we are giving aid. We are giving support. We're trying it, but it's their job. They are not Americans. They're Haitians. It is the president of the United States' job to lift up the people of the United States of America and not the whole entire world. So yes, love our neighbor. Give them help. Don't leave them to die in the wind. But it ain't our job to make everybody.
Okay, y'all. Did you see that? All right, y'all. Did you see that? And you ever notice when coons talk, they always talk like they are part of something. It's not our job, and we should do this, and we do. Who is we, and who's our? This is not. Does he not realize these white supremacists do not consider us even citizens, even the people that were descendants of slaves? You know, but it amazes me. But this is one example. It gets worse. I got another one to show you. It gets even worse. See, the Mark Burns are white supremacists' best friend. They love people like him. They're going to always put him in everybody's face. Whenever there's another black person for him to go up against, they're going to keep bringing him on to do it. And he will gladly do it. He will gladly do it. He has no issue at all. But let's look at the Becky that this man is married to. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what it means when we say when swirlers, once they start marrying and dating Becky, they're neutralized. They are of no use at all to the Black community at this point. They're of no use. The best thing for these swirlers to do is to move on. Seriously, we don't need their voice anymore in the community. We should not desire their voice in the community. And we should be working hard to reject that voice, because it is a voice of harm. It is not a voice of helping us, and that's a problem. He is never going to be of help to the Black community because he's got a white wife and biracial children. That right there, he's completely diminished from being of any use to us. So he should just pack it in and just move on. You chose white, go on off in the sunset with your white wife and let that be the end of it. But see, like I said, my concern is our children looking at someone like this and wondering what is wrong with them. You know, we don't need that kind of confusion in the community. We don't need it. I wouldn't even want him around my Black child. I wouldn't want anybody like Jesse Lee Peterson around my Black child. Or David Clark. I don't want those. I don't want the likes of those people. I don't even want their voice heard around my children at all. So let's go on to this next video. It gets even worse, y'all. So just brace yourself. All right, this is an interview that he recently did with Joy Reid. So I want you to listen to him and just listen. He got more disrespect than the average white supremacist when he's talking to another Black person.
Right now, it is time for AM Joy with my friend Joy Reid.
Are you just a phenomenon? Is it possible for everybody to be what you've become?
No, it's not, but it's possible for a lot of people to become successful and even very successful. I mean, you have to be given, and this is where luck comes in. You have to be born lucky in the sense that you have to have the right genes to go out, and if it's in my business, if it's making deals, if it's to become Jack Nicklaus or Chris Everett or Martina.
Let me ask you this.
You have to have a certain gene.
Good morning and welcome to AM Joy. So where are you from? It's a relatively innocuous question, which can be a little bit annoying if you're a person of color, but really, no harm done. But in Trump's America, it has become really, really loaded. Here's how Trump might answer it. Donald Trump's mother, Mary Ann McLeod, was Scottish. Trump has said in the past that he feels Scottish. His grandfather, Friedrich Drumpf, was from Germany. His father, Fred Trump, reportedly anglicized the name to Trump in the 1940s and concealed the family's origins, claiming they were Swedish, because Fred, a real estate developer in Queens, New York, recognized that being German in the midst of World War II was bad for business. Fred Trump was also arrested at a Klan rally in New York in 1927. And he and his son Donald settled a complaint by Nixon's Justice Department in the 1970s for discriminating against Black would-be tenants in their apartment buildings in Queens by putting C for colored on the applications. That is the story of the Trumps. But when Donald Trump talks about what he thinks America should look like going forward, what he apparently wants to see is more Friedrich Trumps and more Marianne McLeods and fewer people like my mother and father, who immigrated to the U.S. in the 1960s from British Guyana and the then newly independent Democratic Republic of Congo, respectively. Places that, according to Donald Trump, are, quote, shithole countries, as apparently are Haiti, El Salvador, Honduras, and every country on the African continent. According to Senator Dick Durbin, and first reported in the Washington Post, the president's assessment of much of the planet where the majority of people are not white came during an Oval Office meeting with members of Congress to hash out immigration policy that could impact 11 million undocumented immigrants living and working in the United States, and the untold numbers who want to migrate to the U.S., as well as a DACA fix that will decide the fate of 800,000 young immigrants who could face deportation in March if Congress does not reach a deal. And joining me now is Pastor Mark Burns, co-founder and CEO of the Now television network and a member of the Donald Trump Evangelical Council. And Pastor Burns, first of all, good morning to you. Thank you for being here. Morning. So what is your reaction to Donald Trump calling the entire African continent, all 54 countries, and significant portions of the Caribbean, including Haiti, shithole countries? Pardon my language. And I know you're a pastor.
Well, if, and this is allegedly, he said, and let's just be clear, this is an alleged, because there are two other members of Republican members that were in there, and they denied that the president stated. They didn't. They denied, or they said that it didn't come down the way that it has been portrayed. The president made it very clear.
One second before you go any further. The two senators you're talking about are Tom Cotton and David Perdue of Arkansas and Georgia, respectively. They did not deny that the president said it. They said they could not recall what the president said. And in fact, no one has denied it. And this is cut 6 for my producers. The White House issued a statement following what happened, and they too did not deny it. Their response to whether or not the president said what he is alleged by Dick Durbin to have said was, certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people. So no one has denied what he said.
Well, let's just be clear. Obviously, if because again, we still don't have proof.
No one's denied he said it.
We don't have proof.
Lindsey Graham also said he said it.
We don't have proof.
Lindsey Graham, we don't have proof. Excuse me, were you in the room? Because the people in the room said that he said it. Were you in the room? I don't have to be, because people in the room said he said it. There were people in the room also said that he did not say it. No, there was no one in the room. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. From the White House that he did not say it. Really? High
authority. So were you in the room?
No.
So were you in the room?
The bottom line is,
so can you say it for a fact, Joy, that he said it?
Yes, I can. Lindsey Graham.
You cannot. You're taking other people's words for it.
And you're taking other people's words. As opposed to your highly placed sources.
So I'm saying allegedly. That's all I'm saying.
Lindsey Graham, excuse me. Lindsey Graham, who also confirmed to Tim Scott, his fellow South Carolina senator, that Donald Trump said it, said following comments by the president, which he acknowledges, he said, I said my piece directly to him yesterday. The president and all those attending the meeting know what I said and how I feel. I've always believed that America is an idea not defined by its people, its ideals. So Lindsey Graham, who is one of the most servile supporters of Donald Trump, also says he said it. So let's move on from that.
I think it's cowardly.
Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that.
If he said it, they should come out and say he said it.
I agree with that. They absolutely are cowardly for not saying it to cameras, as Dick Durbin did. Now let's get to the substance of it. What are your thoughts on the president of the United States referring to the 54 countries on the African continent, Haiti, and other countries as shithole countries? Your response to that?
Well, first of all, it would be preposterous if it was said. I mean, I would disagree wholeheartedly to even call these countries, Nigeria, African countries, plenty of countries that are not S-hole countries. I mean, so I would completely disagree, disavow any type of a language that is spoken. That's not how I would speak, and I wouldn't want to be connected to people who would talk like that. But let's just get to the real heart of the matter.
But you are connected to the president because you're on his evangelical council.
his words and not his deeds. The fact is, there are many of those countries like Haiti who are in destitute. They're in the worst situations because of governments that are not taking care of their own people. Now, we're talking about people leaving their own country and coming to America, when in reality, President Trump clearly ran on a Make America Great Again policy, which is why he won. Americans want people, if they do come to America, to offer something that's going to be better for America, not simply send people who, because of their weak, broken governments, dishonorable in a lot of ways, governments in some of these countries who are not taking care of their own people. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse number 8, that a person is worse than an infidel when they refuse to take care of their own people, of their own kind. And so I just believe President Trump was simply saying, it is clear that we loved our neighbor. People say, well, Pastor, what about love thy neighbor? Well, of course, we loved our neighbor, which is why we love them a lot. We send hundreds of millions of dollars of aid to many of these countries. And these corrupt governments and corrupt leaders are taking advantage of the people that are there. Even the Clintons, who allegedly stole millions and millions of dollars, do a quick meme, so they can do a quick meme and say, look what joy looks like on television. But the fact of the matter is, we do love our neighbor. We do help. We don't leave people destitute. We send, and those millions of dollars could be coming to America to help other Black people, other minorities.
Can I get a word in edgewise? Can I get a word in edgewise on AM?
It is your show.
Okay, good.
It is your show.
So you quoted, I want to unpack a couple of things you said. You quoted 1 Timothy 5-8, and that verse refers to a man who would not take care of his own family and immediate family. There's another verse in the Bible. I'm a church girl. All right. I used to teach Sunday school back in Denver, Colorado when I was in high school. So I love a Bible verse myself. So let's talk about, hold on a second. No, we're going to have church this morning. I have a pastor on, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quote the word of the Lord. Isaiah 10:2. In the Bible says, woe to those who enact evil statutes and to those who constantly record unjust decisions so as to deprive the needy of justice and rob the poor of my people of their rights, so that widows may be their spoil and that they may plunder orphans. The Bible says a lot about caring for others and widows and orphans. The Bible verse you talked about, talking about caring for one's own family and immediate family. This Bible verse that is repeated much more in the Bible talks about caring for the least of these and widows and orphans. So you talked about, hey, hold on a second. So you talked about Haiti in specifically being a country that's not caring for its own people and that it has a government that's corrupt and a system that's broken. Then how can you, as a man of God, justify sending people back to such a country? If the country is so broken, then how can you, as a man of God, justify sending people back to that country?
This is not about sending people back to their country.
That's what Donald Trump's policy is.
What we're
you said, look at his deeds. That is his policy.
The deeds is the African American. The deeds are this.
No, answer my question first.
African American unemployment in America is at an all-time low.
We're not talking about sending African Americans to Haiti. We're talking about. We're talking
about taking care of America first. Wait,
time out, because I'm going to get an answer to my question before you do another soliloquy.
I understand
let you talk for quite a long time.
This is the United States of America.
How do you justify, sir? You're the one who said that this is about Trump's deeds. Trump's deed is to revoke TPS and send Haitians back to Haiti, a country you said is ill-equipped to take care of its own people.
It is not the responsibility of the United States of America to be the United States of the global world. This is the United States of America. You, Joy,
so what you're saying,
America.
Okay, so
the
what
president
you're saying,
of the United States' job, his vow and oath was to protect and to defend the Constitution of the United States and the citizens of the United States. Now, we're not leaving those people to die. We're sending aid. We're sending millions of dollars.
Let me ask you a question. Do
you believe that millions of dollars, that we send to Haiti and those other countries, wouldn't that money do good here in America? Wouldn't that money do good for other African Americans? Let's talk about the Black mothers. Let's talk about the Black fathers. Let's talk about the Black single moms in America.
Are you then advocating for universal health care to make sure that those Black mothers and fathers in this country have universal health care?
Let's talk about the NFL mothers of the NFL players who are not getting their money.
Are you kidding?
Let's talk about the mothers. Yes, they're Black mothers.
What does the
NFL
NFL
mothers.
have to do with
The NFL
universal
mother.
health
We're talking
care?
about black people in America. Let's talk about black people in America. We're talking about black people
Do
in
you believe
Haiti.
that they
Let's
should
talk
get
about black people in America.
universal health
And
care?
there is one thing that
I
the
have one
president,
more
I
question.
do disagree. There's one thing that the president and I do disagree
Oh,
with.
there is one thing.
Yes, I disagree that I don't think we need more, in reference to his Norwegian immigration policy, I don't think we need any more white liberals coming to America. I think we need to share it all and open the door. As we open the door, we don't need more white liberals coming to this country. So
Are you saying that you want to have a policy based on people's ideology? So, well, Norwegians have been quite clear that they don't want to come here and give up their
this is
universal
America,
health care.
Joy.
I have one more country. I know where I live. One
this
last
is
country.
America.
I'm going to ask you one more question and
And there
attempt
are
to
black
get an answer
people
to
in
it.
America
You know
that
what?
are
I'm one of
suffering.
them, so I happen to know that there are
And so
plenty of
am
black
I.
people
So
here.
am I.
So what
And so am I.
is
And they're
what is
suffering,
no,
Joy.
okay, what
So we're
is-
talking about Haiti.
What is the role?
President
One
Trump.
more. I'm going to give you one more chance to answer my question, and then we're going to be done
Okay.
here because you're actually
Okay.
wasting my time when you talk over me
Joy,
and
you're
don't
wasting
answer
my
my
time
question.
when you're not talking.
Oh,
when you're
well,
not
then if
talking
I'm
about
wasting your
Americans.
time, then goodbye. Thank you very much for being on the
Thank
show.
you, Joy.
Pastor
Bye-bye.
Mark Burns. Let's bring in our
All right. She actually did the right thing in this particular case by cutting him off. But you see how he went all hard in with another black person. And this is what the coon with the white supremacist mindset does, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they do. They will be even more deflective. You see how he was deflecting and start talking about African Americans when the conversation was about what Trump said, you know? So you can tell he's married to a Becky because he is definitely the master of deflection. She taught him well because he got it down. Okay. But it gets even worse, y'all. Keep your eyes on the screen. It gets even worse with this dude. This is the article that came out today after his interview with Joy Reid. Look at what this says. Pastor
Mark Burns filmed a video in which he said Joy Reid should consider moving to Haiti after he and the MSNBC host had a heated debate during his appearance Saturday morning on her show. Burns appeared to have filmed the video in the car, picking him up after the contentious interview. He also posted the video on Twitter. Reid immediately fired back on her show, saying she and Burns were not friends.
Okay. So he went straight to the media and he took to Twitter against Joy Reid after that interview to put her on blast. Okay. And she, of course,
you have
made it
a week from now. There's
let me just get rid
another
of that.
deadline.
She also made it clear, I'm not friends with this dude, you know, but this goes to show you what level he took this to. He did an interview against her in the media and took to Twitter. Okay, this is what I'm saying when I'm telling you the swirler with the white supremacist mindset. And that's exactly what he has. Okay, this is what he has. The only way to deal with him is to let him know he is of no use to the black community, and we shut him off. Whenever we see him appearing on TV, we have to stay away so their ratings will drop. Trust me on this one. If their ratings drop every time he appears, they're going to give him the axe. The white supremacists are not going to use someone that's going to make them lose money. Losing ratings means they're losing money. Yeah, Joy is too, but he's even worse. He's even worse. And he's gone out. Let me just get back and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. He's an even bigger coon, and I've seen him go out against several black people before in the past. So, you know, anybody in the mainstream media is going to be a coon, but this swirler is an exceptional white supremacist mindset coon. You know, the bottom line is you can't be in mainstream media here in America and not have some coon in you. It's just the way it is. You got to understand, most of these major news organizations are white, Republican owned. And they do what they do best, keep people that think like them on the air 24/7. And a voice like mine would never get a chance on there. Okay, not even a fraction. That's the way it is. We have to look and learn and understand why Haiti and Africa are in the conditions that they're in. They are poor largely because of the United States and other Western nations. And what do? They overthrow governments like we saw in Zimbabwe. They have destabilized places as we saw in Libya. They rape the land like we see all the time in various parts of the world, all over the world. They're raping the land. And they are responsible for the poor conditions that we see in Africa and Haiti. And see, they do what they have done all throughout history. They cause these conditions and then point at these places and say, well, they're so poor and they're this, and they put the blame for those nations being poor back on the citizens when they caused it in the first place. Right, years of colonialism. Exactly. Okay, slavery and colonialism and imperialism. Do you know, I think it's France, they still collect colonial tax from African nations? Colonial tax. They charge them a colonial tax. Okay? So, you know, that's why I disregard white people when they make statements about Africa being poor and Haiti being poor, because they caused this condition for them. They caused it. Okay? Just look at the history. They are the one that caused the conditions, and now you're going to bitch about it? You know, these folks have no room to talk at all. You know, I have to laugh. You know, the fact that Trump is even suggesting that these countries are shitholes, maybe he needs to take a deeper look within America. We have cities and rural areas in America that are shitholes too. Okay, he doesn't have to look beyond America to find a shithole. We got plenty of them right here. So if he is so concerned about the shitholes, then maybe he needs to fix the ones that are in America. You know, we got a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people in America that are not living at a good level. I remember when I was, I guess this maybe 10 years ago, I had met this Afro-Puerto Rican woman, and she moved to New Jersey from New York. And she was saying, you know, my husband and we're fixing up our house. And I said, okay. So, you know, I just figured they bought one of those fixer-upper homes. You know, a lot of people do that. You know, they're cheap, and then you can kind of bring value to the house by fixing it up. She was telling me in New York, there were some homes that people were living in that didn't even have windows. And she was like, believe me, this is better from where we came from in New York. So how do you call other places shitholes when there's plenty of shitholes right here in America? Plenty of them. In fact, when the Syrian refugees went to New York. I should go and find that article. They were saying the conditions that Black people lived in New York was worse than what they lived in Syria. Okay. They came from a war-torn country and said the conditions where they were in New York was worse than what they lived in Syria. Okay. So Trump really needs to shut the hell up. And New York is his state. That's where he came from. How the hell do you go and talk about somebody else and you haven't even fixed up the shitholes in the land that you live in? Yeah, there's a lot, Lord Maul, there's a lot of places around America that are in terrible condition. But, and largely when they talk about the inner cities, they're responsible for the poverty in the inner cities. Everything still points right back to the white community. Not only the poverty all over the world, but even the poverty within America. Instead of criticizing Africa and Haiti, and these are significant things. I know a lot of us, how we feel about immigrants. I get it. But you got to look a lot harder in what Trump is saying. Believe me, if he thinks this about people that don't even live in this country, that came from somewhere else to America, this is how he feels about the Black people already here too. In a white supremacist mind, he doesn't discern differences between an immigrant Black person or the ones here. They lump us all together and say we're all no good. Okay, that's how they see it. The only shithole is Trump's brain, because the man definitely have shit for brain. His brain is a pile of shit. But this is how it is. It's going to, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm really saying to you on top of talking about the swirling cone is brace yourself for the worst. We are in January. And you see all of the stuff that has happened. We have to be on the ready for any damn thing. With Trump in charge, if anything falls apart in America, this government don't have our back. Historically, they never have. So you have to be ready for anything. And we've always had white supremacist presidents in this country, but Trump has to be by far the worst we've seen in the 21st century. I won't say he's the worst of all time, but he's definitely the worst in the 21st century. So we have to be ready for anything, y'all. We just do, and get over the shock value of any racist thing that comes from Trump. Trump is a white supremacist. The racist things are going to come from him down to his last breath. You are not going to change a 71-year-old white, overly privileged man and his mindset and his thinking at this stage of the game. You're just not. So we just have to be ready and just know that we have to look after ourselves. There is no government or anyone in political power that have our back. And that's the truth. We can't even turn to the Congressional Black Caucus and say, well, you know what? They got our back. They don't. They don't. Okay. This is not going to be the worst thing that Trump will be doing in his presidency. And that's the truth. It's not. There's definitely more coming, and each time it will get worse. So we are going to have to just get over the shock and just deal with it, and just know that we only got each other, y'all. We only got each other. You know, I will be doing another live stream later on today, but that's with patrons only. Okay, that's with patrons only. And the live streams that I do with them are not the same kind that I do with everyone else. Yes, it's one. It's not the same kind that I do with anyone else. So it's a whole different stream that we do. Exactly, Vampire Greg. We are all we got. And that's what this is coming down to. So, you know, that's why, you know, some people, when they made comments, they were like, well, those Africans and those Haitians come over and say, treat us this way and that way. But you got to see beyond what Trump is saying. Trump don't like Black people, period, whether they're from here or from somewhere else. This is why he made the statement, why can't we get more people from Norway? That's because he really, if he could figure out a way to get all people of color out of here, he would do it. He would do it. You know, and see, these devils would do it in a way where they would pitch you out of here with nothing but the clothes on your back. If they could do it anyway, if they could figure out a way to do it that way, they would. But America is a dying nation. Its population is declining. You know, what they consider a dominating population is dying. And they can't do without us, because financially America would crash if Black people left this nation. This place would crash. It is not enough white people to support this country on their own, not financially. I mean, look, we're all here. America has many different groups and ethnicities here now, and there's still over $20 trillion in debt. That's why they took down the debt clock. That's why they took it down. Look, they're in tons of debt with us here. Can you imagine what would happen if we left? It would be over. And they know it, but see, they can't come out and tell you that they need the Black citizens here. They got too much ego to do that, but they really do. They really need us here. They would not survive without us. Period. So believe me, if they could have got rid of us, they would have done it a long time ago. They haven't, because they're not in any position. The white citizens in America cannot carry this nation on their own. They can talk all the shit about going back to Africa and talk all kinds of shit about hating us and we got low IQs. But the bottom line is they cannot live without us, period. Despite everything that they say, period. They're bringing pregnant Russian women here to make angry babies. It's not going to work, though. Sonny, guess what? Russia also has a declining population. It's not going to work. They're getting these women from another country that has a declining population. They may be able to make a few babies at best, but they are not going to be able to make enough to replenish the white population. They can't even replenish their population in Russia. So how the hell are they going to cross the ocean and do it here in America? It's just, don't even pay attention to what they're doing. It's not going to make a difference. Okay. Russia, in fact, Russia's population is declining worse than the population here in America. It is a global thing with the white European. Their decline is global. So it doesn't matter where they pluck these women to get pregnant and have babies by American men. It doesn't make any difference. It is not going to resolve their issue. What's happening to them is biological. It really is. It's just like any other hybrid. After a while, I think after so many generations of hybrids reproducing themselves, it gets to the point where the gene pool just weakens. And genetically, they are just not strong enough to keep replicating themselves because they're already at a disadvantage by even being a hybrid. Hybrid means they are more than one thing. And we know they're Neanderthal, rhesus monkey, and have some human DNA and fruit flies and other things in their dog in their gene pool. So just like the Neanderthal could not keep themselves here, now you're seeing their offspring not being able to keep themselves here. Remember, they came from Neanderthals, and there are no those Neanderthals from that lived up in the caves, they don't exist anymore. They died out. So just looking at the lineage that they came from, they have no chance of making it. It's all genetics. That's why it's happening on a global scale. And it's about to get worse for them in this country because the drug epidemic is going stronger than ever. Their suicides are off the chart. And now they're baby boomers. This is all going on at once. All going on at once. They can't, bringing people over from Russia is not the answer. They're not even going to be able to replace the baby boomers that are dying out. That's their last biggest population in the white community. Those Russian women are not going to be able to replenish all of those deaths. They can't. And I think they're stupid anyway. So you can tell it's all for money. Just think about it. They're having a reproduction problem in their own country, but they're going to cross the ocean and help another country outside of themselves? That's stupid. It's all for money. And it's a waste of time. It is not going to work. If that's the case, why didn't they reproduce enough to replace all the people lost over there in Russia? They didn't because they can't do it. Yeah, there's going to be a few of them that are still fertile, but in order for them, and also look at this, in order for them to bring Russian women over here to have these babies, they already know their own women here in America are barren. They can't have babies. And it goes back to what I said before in my previous video when I said, yeah, they have AIDS and they got a huge drug problem over there too. And Russia is not replacing their dying population. In fact, Putin did something similar to what Ryan did here in the US. He was telling the Russians to have babies. They can't. They can't, y'all. They can't. They're having the same problem in Australia, New Zealand, here, and really in all across Europe. You already know all of Europe is dying. And this is why so many Europeans are now running to America and adopting Black children. I did an article on that, where these European men and women, these couples are coming and adopting Black children in America and taking them back over to Europe because they don't have nobody to take care of them when they get old. So yeah, you know, when they're using the Black children as their slave to help them get through the end of their life, you know? Thank you, Lewis Caldwell. And they know this is the end. Many of them are admitting, but of course you've got some of the ones that are still talking shit. You won't get rid of us. We're here. No, you're not. Yes, the white male sperm count is down, and the females, they're just not getting pregnant. That's why they got to have the Russian women coming, because the females in this country, the white females, are not enough of them are getting pregnant. And again, it goes to that hybrid. They are not full human. So genetically, it's like each generation that came, the genetics weakened out to the point where they can't just have an abundance of babies. And of course, that's a problem. You know, and it brings me back to the swirling. You know, if you see what's going on and you see genetically there is something going on with them, why would you want to give your egg or your sperm to these people? They, number one, they're not even worthy of having anything from us. But why? 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 Seriously, why? You're a full human and you're giving your sperm and egg to a hybrid? Yeah, something's definitely wrong with some of our people. Yeah, they always do. That's why the fertility clinics are all in the white neighborhood. It's always been that way. They've always struggled with having babies, ladies and gentlemen, even during chattel slavery. The maternity wards in the hospital was because of them. So many of them during home births died, or the baby died to the point where they had to come up with the hospital and maternity wards for them. That was really for them. So they always had a problem with carrying a baby and having a baby and all that stuff, and even nursing their babies. That's why many of them gave their babies to Black women, because the Black women were not having a problem nursing a baby. The white woman was having a problem even nursing her own baby. And what I mean was her body was not producing enough breast milk. So they would hand the babies over to the Black women to nurse their babies. Well, you know, they feed off of our energy anyway. You know, that's why we need to really cut them off, because they don't bring anything good as far as energy and spirit to us. So we should not be dealing with them. You know, the problem with America, America is a what they call a melting pot. But we're not supposed to be all mixed up and intermixing with each other anyway. You know, everybody is supposed to be with their own group. If that were the case, it would have been less chaotic and murderous in this country. But they're trying to blend everybody all together, and it's simply not working. It's not working. Plain and simple, it's not working, and it's not going to work. It was never meant for us to be all mixed up together like this. And until everybody goes back to their own group and community, there's no chance of ever having peace in America. We know we're not going to have peace in Babylon. Okay, we already know we're not. But mixing everybody up, that's the biggest mistake ever. Biggest mistake ever. You know, and the only thing integration has done, it has kept us in a very disadvantaged position in this country. It has also broken the spirits of our children. Our children have to, in many cases, go to school every day and deal with these demons in the classroom that are in there just going against your Black child. I know many of us want to believe, oh no, my kid did just fine. And trust me, I've been in classrooms with white teachers, and they do and say a lot of underhanded racist things to those Black children. Okay, whether you think your kid is doing okay in those classrooms or not. I've had too many of those teachers in my lifetime, and I know better. Okay. I even had a teacher cuss at Black students before, a white teacher, and witnessed this in my classroom. So believe me, I see how they used to single the Black kids out and punish the Black kids, but when the white kids flip off at the mouth at them, they do absolutely nothing. I done seen all of that. So you're not going to tell me about some good white teacher that your Black child have, okay? You know, I don't want to hear it. Those women are only in the Black community to keep your kid from ever catching up to the white kids. That's their only goal in the Black community. They're not there for any other reason. Okay? White females are not in these schools because they love your Black kids. It's contrary. They can't stand your Black children at all. I had a good friend that was a teacher assistant, and she was Black. And she told me every time they took a break inside of the teacher's room, she said all these white women would sit together at the table, and every child they hated in their class were Black kids. They would sit around this table talking about each and every child in their class that they absolutely hated. And they said every single child they named, she told me every single child they named in their class that they hated were Black. Every single child they sat around in that room and said they could not stand were Black children. That's why I am deeply against our kids being exposed to these demons. But I know you do what you have to do, but just make sure if you still have to send your children to school, make sure you undo the damage when they come home. That's all I'm saying. If you have no choice and you got to work and there's no one else, and I get it, but just make sure whatever the damage the teacher does, you undo it when they get home. You have to work against what they're doing. Yeah, I had that happen too. I had teachers do the same thing. I would write a report and they would say, "Oh, I'm shocked. Why are you shocked?" You know, and they expect us to be stupid. And when we're not stupid, they are in deep shock. But only stupid ones are them. Really, I mean, the only stupid ones really are them. Let me tell you a story. I was always really good in math, and my father was good at math. So he taught me, and I ended up being really good at math. I went all the way up to calculus, y'all. And I was getting the highest grades in class I was getting the highest grade in class, right? There was an Asian student in the class that was getting the second highest grade in class. Do you know what this white teacher did? She just couldn't stand me being in that number one spot. So this is what she would do. And I know what she was doing. That's why I just kind of blew her off. She would always sit in class and go, Asians are so smart. Asians are just so smart and intelligent. And oh, and this Asian and that Asian. She talked him up, despite the fact that I was outperforming him in class. I knew what she was doing. I knew what she was doing. As young as I was, I knew this teacher was propping the Asian kid up just so she would not have to look my way and acknowledge the fact that a Black student was outperforming not only this Asian kid, but the white students in the class too. See, that's the psychological games that they play on you. And my cousin, I have a cousin that's a nurse. She had a similar situation. She was outperforming many of the white students, but the teacher spent all of her energy praising the white students and ignoring her. And she was sitting there outperforming those white students. But see, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about that your kids have to endure in those classrooms. So even if that teacher is not acknowledging how intelligent your child is, when that child gets home, you make sure you acknowledge it. You make sure they understand that you are well in tune in what your teacher is doing and what's going on. And so they are totally unaffected by it. Yeah, I mean, look, I was reading and writing in kindergarten. You know, my parents did prepare me for that time, but they don't want to see smart Black students. They want you to be dumb and getting the worst grades in class. They don't like when that's not the case. You know, when I graduated from high school, I graduated in the top quarter of my class, you know, and again, they just don't want us to excel. They want to figure out ways to slow you down. But really, technically, it's impossible to slow us down, especially if you require, because that's what my parents did. They required me to read books and to, especially history and things like that when I was growing up. So I was always reading a book. Even during the summer, I was reading books. So that's the kind of things that you want to do with your children. Yeah, they do. Sharon, they purposely give your child a low grade. I've seen them do that also. That's why I say I'm hip to what these teachers do. And that's another reason why these white teachers are in the classroom to give your kid the worst possible grade and then try to turn around and say, see, they're not all that smart. No, they are. Your Black children are smart. But she is going to always downplay their intelligence. They're going to always downplay how intelligent your child is. You know what, Lewis, that's when it begins with the white teacher. It begins in kindergarten. Your kid is going to first notice racism then, because they'll go out of their way to treat the white kids in the class better than they do the Black kids. And it starts in kindergarten. That's when your child will notice it for the first time in their life, being around these damn cave devils in kindergarten. That's when you'll notice it. White kids do something, they don't get in trouble. Your Black child does something, they're in trouble. Or the white teacher goes out of their way to treat the white kids one way and then treat the Black kids another. That's when it's noticed in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I remember when we moved to New Jersey, we took a field trip back to Pennsylvania. And on the City Hall building in Pennsylvania is William Penn, who was a Quaker. I was trying to tell my teacher that, and she argued with me on the school bus that that was Benjamin Franklin on City Hall. I said, no, it isn't. It's William Penn. I grew up in the city. I know who's on that building. Do you know she went back and forth with me, and I was in the 4th grade. Another teacher at the school told her I was right. That was William Penn. Do you know she never even came back and said, I'm sorry, you were right? Nothing. She just played it off. But another teacher had to come in and tell her, no, she's correct. You're the one that's wrong. I was only in the 4th grade. I was only in the 4th grade. But that just go to show you, even they're stupid. Some of them are too stupid to really even be in the classroom teaching your child. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Lewis, I remember I had one white teacher, and she used to always hug the white students. She would do this blatantly in front of the black kids, and the black kids in the class she wouldn't touch. But she always had her arms around the white kids, hugging and kissing on them and everything. And the black kids, she kept you at a distance. I didn't care. I didn't want her gorilla lips on me anyway. So she was doing me a favor. I didn't want her on me. But I'm just saying that is the kind of sneaky stuff these white women do in those classrooms with your kids. So just make sure you know what's going on at every turn with them being in those classrooms. No, many of them are incompetent. They don't realize many of the kids, even in white schools, don't realize they've been dumbed down. That's why they can't compete with the European kids. The European kids are a little better as far as education is concerned, but the ones here in America, they really themselves have been done. They've been dumbed down as well. Because look, how do you control a population? You keep everybody stupid. That's how you do it. The more stupid they are, the more docile they'll be, and the less likely they're going to be in challenging the people that are in charge. This is what they want. They want a population that's never going to challenge them on anything. So in many cases, they've been dumbed down. They're just too stupid to realize it, but they have been dumbed down too. Oh, they know that. At one point in time in this country, they used to use Black people, especially Black women, for math. Black women were that's why they came out with that movie, Hidden Colors, because at one point in time, and it's probably still the case, Black women were exceptionally good at math. And they would even have Black women tutors sit down and teach their kids because they knew who was best at math. And it wasn't their own people, it was us. It was us. Right. The school system is just to make your kid accept white supremacy. That's all it is. I tell you, if I could make every Black parent homeschool their kid, I would have done it by now. Yeah, Hidden Figures. You're right. I said color. You're right. Hidden Figures. In fact, I have that movie. So, it gave me a headache to sit down and listen to Mark Burns. Oh man, that man he just gets under my skin. He really seriously do. You know what? Black men, I consider jack of all trades. Black men are so good at so many different things, it's not even funny. Math, science, medicine, Black men have literally, when you go back and even look at our history during slavery, Black men have been innovators through every single sector in this country. It's so well beyond math, it's not even funny. There is nobody's intelligence in this country has toppled the Black man yet. Not even all these Asians they try to talk up. The Asian community has not done a lot for America like Black people in general, especially the Black man. They certainly haven't done more than the Black man. Period. I mean, look, every day when you wake up out of your bed, cars came from the Black man. Okay? The inoculation that people get, that came from the Black man. When you watch farmers out in their tractors, the tractor is the Black man's invention. And virtually everything in your kitchen that you're looking at, that was the Black man's invention. The refrigerator, the Black man's invention. We can't even give the Black man one title. He is just the jack of all trades. Exactly. He is the jack of all trades. He's good at so many things, it's not even funny. I don't believe you could make a movie about Black men on one subject matter because Black men are so good at so many things. I mean, all these technologies come from us, right? Refrigerated trucks, the light that comes on and off in your refrigerator, that's all Black inventions. Every day when you get up out of your bed, the air conditioner is a Black invention that came from a Black man. The light bulb, that's right, the light bulb came from a Black man. Hell, they didn't even make their own flag. Betsy Ross had a Black slave that was a seamstress. She made the American flag. Betsy Ross didn't make shit. That's right, the cotton gin. And speaking of that, do you know 91% of America's wealth came from the cotton industry? Who was out there picking that cotton, y'all? Who was picking the cotton that made this country wealthy? That's where America's bulk of their wealth came from, the cotton industry. And they were able to sell that cotton all over the world. That's how they became wealthy. Everything they became wealthy on, Black people had a direct hand in it. Period. That's right, the stoplight. That's right. That's right. Everything they became rich off of in America, we had a direct hand in it. They can't exclude us if they wanted to. They couldn't exclude us if they wanted to. Jack Daniel's whiskey, that's right. That's a Black man's invention. Ice cream, you got it. Potato chips. All that came from us. A water sniper, this world wouldn't be anything without the Black man. Do you know how primitive these people would be living, these hybrids would be living if Black man did not exist on this earth? They probably would not have made it beyond the cave. And that's the damn truth. Oh, everything. Everything. It's so many things. It's too many things to list. This is why, if you notice, everything that our Black men and women created furthered humanity. Everything this white devil created, weaponry, nuclear weapons, destroys the planet and the people. That's the difference in how we bring things forth. We bring things forth to make things better. They bring things forth to destroy, to kill. That's the difference. I don't think I could even make a video on how many things were done. That video would have to be hundreds of hours long if I had to do it. Yeah, they only make weaponry, guns, missiles, nuclear war, raping the land, tearing up the land. You know, that's their inventions. Anything that's going to destroy, that's what they do. Whenever those Black people came up with inventions, they were just trying to make the job easier for themselves. That's why it makes sense that the inventions came from Black people. It makes no sense that inventions would have came from white people because they weren't even doing the work. So why would the inventions come from the people that were not doing any work? It makes no sense. Right. And remember the super soaker? That was also a Black man. You know how many white kids I've seen over the summer running around with those super soakers? Well, they claim they came up with medicine, but when you really look at their medicine, all they did was combine Chinese and African medicine together and then claim they came up with it. That's what they've done. That's what their medicine is. That's why I laugh when the trolls come on here. We invented medicine. No, you didn't. You stole Chinese and African medicine and you combined the two. That's not, I ain't creating nothing. And then they said they invented technology. No, they didn't. They don't have the mindset. Even when you talk to them today, they don't have the mindset to create technology. Hi, Sirius. Yeah, you know, that's why it makes me laugh when they come to Black people talking about stop using our inventions. I'm like, that ain't your invention. What the Trust me, if we went down the list of everything that was created by Black people in this country, they'd be the ones not allowed to touch nothing. They didn't invent anything. Everything they do today, they duplicate. Remember, the Most High gave the creativity to us. The only thing the house of Esau can do is duplicate. He didn't give them that ability of creativity. That's why they can't do it even to this day. I mean, even watch them on jobs. When they bring, or if they get a project, watch what they got to do. If somebody said, I want you to write a report, they immediately get up and start asking questions. Well, I don't know what you got to get them started. I used to watch them even on jobs. They will come and even lean on the Black people a lot on the jobs. But of course, when it comes time to take credit, they take full credit for shit that they needed a lot of help with. That's just how they are. It's just their nature. You got to understand that. This is just their nature. Yeah, they're just duplicators. They're not creators. He didn't give the gift of creativity to them. That's why you saw all of the inventions come from Black people, especially Black men. It all came from Black men because the creativity was given to the Black man, not the white man. I mean, look, we are operating at, oh, well, do you know the whole postal service jobs all came from Black people? That all came from Black people too. How the post office do their job, delivering the mail, shipping letters overseas and all that. That all came from Black people. That in fact, the entire postal service, the way they do their job, that all came from us. And look, we are still in captivity and not working at full capacity. Can you imagine when we're in the kingdom and we get all of our gifts back from the Most High? We're going to be on fire. And the thing is, we would have flourished well beyond this point if it wasn't for white supremacy. Can you imagine? We look at all the inventions our people made up until now. If we weren't dealing with all this system of white supremacy, how much further we would have gone. See, this is why they had to fight to slow you down. They know what you're capable of doing. They can talk all that low IQ and dumb, all that mess, all they want. But they know what we're capable of doing. If they didn't know, they would not have built a whole system to slow us down, which they have. Okay, they are completely threatened by us. And we are the only group that is a threat to them. That's why they focus on us so much. Oh, everything is us. Come on, everything is us. Like I said, America would not be where it is if it wasn't for us. They sure can't take any credit because whites did not work during chattel slavery. We worked. They didn't do shit. But lynchings and trying to pretend like they're Christians and all that, that's about all they did. And just be a nuisance to the slaves. That's what they did. But as far as work, their asses didn't work. That's why they keep coming around Black folks talking about how hard they work and they work for everything they got. There's a reason for them saying all that mess to Black folks all the time, because they know their history and they know they did not work during chattel slavery. So that's why they keep coming around us talking all that, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and I work for everything I got. And that's why they do that, because of their history. They know what their history is. And their history is not working. That's their history. Yeah. You know, the Dogon tribe knew the entire universe without having a telescope. Okay. And this white man don't know nothing unless he has a big telescope and satellites up there. Thank you for coming, Smithsonian Smite. Well, yeah, they have to set up an uneven society because they really can't compete with us at all, August Dreams. They can't. That's why they got everything so tilted in their favor, because technically, if they leveled out the playing field, they're going to drop straight to the bottom, free fall. They would free fall to the bottom. And that's the truth. No, they don't. And if they smoke, Regina Davison, they spend their whole damn day out there puffing on cigarettes. I've seen them do that too. They'll tell you, oh, well, you take one break in the morning and take one break in the afternoon. Those white smokers, they take damn near 10 breaks a day. Well, that's why I laugh, problem solver, when they say, how could you be so ungrateful after everything we've given you? Well, what did you give us? Shit that you stole? What did you give us? A bunch of shit that you stole? And then every time they name all this stuff they done, you gave us a whole bunch of shit that you stole. There's a reason why they wanted to sit their asses up in the patent's office. You know why? Because it gave them a chance to take the real inventor's name off and put their name on it. They gave us a bunch of stolen stuff, y'all, and we should be grateful. All right, y'all. It was a pleasure. I know I sprung this on you at the last minute about doing this hangout, but when I saw Mark Burns, I could not just sit there and not do anything. So I just wanted to bring forth this live stream so we could just hash this whole thing out about these people among us that are sellouts and what we can do to try to quash their voices out here and not give them the fanfare that they're looking for. So on that note, I am going to end this hangout. And those of you that are my patrons, I will see you soon in the next hangout. You all have, oh, thank you so much, Sheldon. I do appreciate that. Yes, we're going to do the book part 2, Dolly. Yes. So we will get back into that today. In fact, I got to get that all together. But we're going to finish out and just hang out and have a good time with the patrons. And you all have a great day. Shalom, family.